Alright, so today we're going to learn about irregular 212 adjectives, otherwise known as the naughty nine. Let's jump right into it. Alright, so in the space below, I've provided you with one example of these naughty nine. As you may have guessed, there will be 8 others. And I've just written out all the forms here, mainly to highlight that there's not a real big difference between the naughty nine and regular 212 adjectives. They're simply not that naughty. Let's zoom in on that a little bit more, though, by highlighting the differences. And if we see, the differences are actually differences we've seen before. Can anyone else, anyone watching, come up with perhaps another Latin adjective that we've encountered? There's been more than one that has the same alteration. Correct. Yeah, correct. It is ille, ala, lud, or hic, hike, hoke also has it. Qui, qui, quod has it. Cuius, cuis, cuis, right? Qui, qui, qui. So we've seen this pattern before. So this is really nothing new. And just like with those words, after we get past the genitive and dative singular, if we look at all the other forms, they're totally normal 212 endings. So really, the actual forms are not too hard to learn. The tricky part is remembering which adjectives follow this weird genitive singular, this odd dative singular. And for that, I have a little mnemonic device for us. Unus nauta. Unus nauta is the device that most textbooks will suggest that you use to remember these 9 adjectives. And if we look at it, we realize olus, nolus, unus, solus, nuter, alter, uter, totus, and alias make up the list. If this is a little intimidating, you can take some of them in pairs, right? Olus and nolus go together. Olus means any, nolus means none. You can almost hear the negative there. You can kind of take solus together with totus, kind of. Totus is whole, solus is only, alone. So while totus is the whole, the group, solus is one, alone. Sorry, unus is one. And we've seen, I think, some of these words. We've seen unus before with our numbers. I think we've seen solus before when you're flying solo, for example. You're flying alone. It's a good way to remember what solus means. And then if you study all these adjectives together, and then you remember unus nauta, you can kind of remember. It will help you remember them because you remember, oh, there's only 3 words that start with U. There's 2 words that start with N. There's only 1 adjective that starts with a T and follows this weird genitive singular, dative singular forms. And it will be a little bit easier to recall. The other thing we want to keep in mind with these adjectives is another pattern. When one of these adjectives ends in ER, you're only going to use it when talking about 2 specific items, 2 specific things, 2 specific groups. So you'd only use uter to say which of 2. I'm talking about 2 people. For example, Romulus and Remus. I would use uter to ask which one of them. Or I would use uter to ask if are you a Yankees fan or a Red Sox fan? Which team do you prefer, right? Then I would use uter because I'm talking about a specific pair. The same is true with neuter and alter. Neuter you can remember as of 2 because it's the 3rd gender we have. If it's neither masculine or feminine, it's neuter. And that's a good way to remember that neuter is neither, and it's also only used when you're talking about of 2. Alter is the same. Alter is the other of 2. If you want to say the other of some larger number than just 2, there's some people like ice cream, others like bananas, and yet others like chocolate. Then then you'd use the word alias, which we saw before is also one of the unus nauta words. So alias and alter both mean other. Alter is just only used when you're talking about two people. And there's going to be another quick connection between alter and alias too that we'll go over now. Alias is important to pay a little bit of extra attention to because it has a slight other weird thing with its 212 endings that none of the other unus nauta words have. First off, if you look closely, you'll notice that its neuter nominative and its neuter accusative are aliud, not alium. It's a weird quirk. It's kind of like ille, ila, ilud in that sense. So it's not totally foreign. But the best way to remember is just say it aloud to yourself when you study alias, alia, aliud multiple times until it clicks, and then it will sound wrong to you if you say it any other way. And the other kind of weird thing about it is that it's really rare to see alias as alias in the genitive, in part because if you think about it, right, if it was alias in the genitive, alias, it would be confusing, very confusing with the nominative masculine singular. And so instead, authors would borrow the genitive and dative forms of alter in order to do the genitive and dative singular of the adjective alias, alia, aliud. Okay, so that's one other tiny quirk. And otherwise, unus nauta and the naughty nine are relatively straightforward. Just a little bit of elbow grease and a little quirk to remember. All right, I hope this helped, and I will see you next class.